November 22, 1963. President John F. Kennedy, shot dead in Dallas, age 46. June 5, 1968. Senator Robert F. Kennedy, shot dead in Los Angeles, age 42. July 16, 1999. John F. Kennedy Jr., his plane crashes into the Atlantic, age 38. 2 assassinations, multiple plane crashes, drug overdoses, accidents that defy probability. For 75 years, the Kennedy family has been haunted by tragedy so consistent, they call it a curse. But what if it's not supernatural? What if the Kennedy curse is genetic? Welcome to Famous Roots. Today we're conducting a DNA audit on America's most tragic political dynasty. And what we found explains everything. If you're fascinated by the hidden bloodlines behind American power, subscribe to Famous Roots right now. Hit that bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. Our story begins in horror. 1845. Ireland. A fungus destroys the potato crop. For Irish peasants who survive on potatoes alone, this means starvation. Over 7 years, 1 million Irish die. Another million flee. The British government does almost nothing. In County Wexford, in a village called Dunganstown, lives a tenant farmer named Patrick Kennedy, born 1823. His family doesn't own their land. They rent from a British landlord. When the potatoes die, people starve. But the rent remains. In 1848, Patrick Kennedy boards a coffin ship to Boston. He arrives with nothing, no money, no connections, just survival DNA, Irish peasants who endured centuries of British oppression and now genocide. Boston doesn't welcome him. No Irish need apply, signs everywhere. Irish immigrants live in slums, take the worst jobs. Patrick becomes a cooper, making barrels on the docks. He marries Bridget Murphy, another County Wexford refugee. Think about this genetically. Both fled the same tiny region of Ireland, possibly distant cousins. The Kennedy bloodline isn't diversifying, it's concentrating. In 1858, Patrick dies of cholera, age 35. He leaves Bridget with 4 children and no money. But Bridget refuses to break. She opens a shop, works as a hairdresser, and raises her son, Patrick Joseph, with one message: never be poor again. Patrick Joseph, PJ, is born months after his father dies. He never knew Patrick Sr. At age 22, he buys his first saloon. But in Irish Boston, saloons aren't just bars, they're political headquarters. PJ becomes a ward boss, Massachusetts state representative, state senator. He owns 3 saloons and a liquor business. He transforms the family from famine refugees to Boston Irish aristocracy in 1 generation. And in 1887, he marries Mary Augusta Hickey, also Irish Catholic, also from County Wexford families. The Kennedys are marrying back into the same gene pool their parents escaped Ireland with. Limited genetic diversity. PJ's son Joseph is born 1888, and Joe Kennedy wants more than Boston Irish politics. He wants real money, real American power. In 1914, Joe marries Rose Fitzgerald, daughter of Boston Mayor John Honeyfitz Fitzgerald. This isn't romance. It's a dynasty merger. And genetically, Rose's family also fled County Wexford during the famine. Joe's great-grandfather fled Wexford in 1848. Rose's great-grandparents fled Wexford around the same time. They're marrying back into the same tiny genetic pool. 3 generations of concentrated Irish Catholic DNA. Joe makes his fortune during Prohibition. Evidence suggests he bootlegged whiskey, importing it legally to Canada, then smuggling it into the U.S. His father owned liquor businesses. Joe knew the trade. Then Hollywood. He buys studios, produces films, has an affair with actress Gloria Swanson. Rose knows. Rose tolerates it. Then Wall Street, manipulating stocks, insider trading. By the 30s, Joe's worth hundreds of millions. In 1938, he becomes ambassador to the United Kingdom, but he makes a catastrophic mistake. He suggests Britain negotiate with Hitler. He's recalled in disgrace in 1940. Joe Kennedy will never be president, but he has 9 children. 9 Kennedy children, carrying concentrated Irish DNA from 2 county Wexford bloodlines. And Joe raises them for one purpose: political dynasty. Rose gives birth 9 times in 17 years. The third child, Rosemary, is born with intellectual disabilities. IQ around 60 to 70. In 1941, when she's 23, Joe authorizes a lobotomy, without telling Rose. The surgery destroys Rosemary's brain. She's institutionalized for 63 years, unable to speak coherently. Was her disability genetic? Isolated gene pools show higher rates of developmental disorders. The Kennedys had been intermarrying within Boston's Irish Catholic community for 3 generations. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Jack, born 1917. And from birth, he's sick. Scarlet fever, chronic illness, constant pain. The family joke: if a mosquito bit Jack, the mosquito would die. In 1947, doctors discover Addison's disease, a rare autoimmune disorder where the immune system attacks the adrenal glands. Without treatment, it's fatal. With treatment, daily medication forever. Addison's disease has a genetic component. It shows higher rates in genetically isolated populations, like Irish Catholic communities that intermarried for generations. To function, Kennedy takes hydrocortisone, painkillers, testosterone, amphetamines, and sleeping pills. His doctor gives him methamphetamine injections. But the public sees a young, vigorous president. It's a lie. Kennedy is dying. But before Jack's presidency, tragedy strikes. Joe Jr., the golden boy, the firstborn, joins the Navy in World War II. In August 1944, he volunteers for a dangerous mission. His plane explodes over the English Channel. Age 29, Joe Kennedy Sr. is destroyed. The burden falls to Jack. Joe Sr. tells him, "It's your responsibility now." Jack Kennedy survives World War II as a hero. His patrol boat T-109 is rammed by a Japanese destroyer. He saves his crew. But the war destroys his back. Chronic pain for life. Despite the pain, despite Addison's disease, Kennedy rises. Congressman, senator, and in 1960, he runs for president. January 20th, 1961. John F. Kennedy becomes president. Age 43. The youngest elected president. The first Catholic. Irish Catholic Boston conquers Protestant America. The press calls it Camelot. The beautiful president. Elegant first lady, adorable children. America falls in love. But behind the image, Kennedy is constantly medicated, in constant pain, hiding a terminal disease. November 22nd, 1963. Dallas. Kennedy rides in an open car. 12:30 p.m. Shots ring out. President Kennedy is hit in the head. 30 minutes later, he's dead. Age 46. The assassination shocked the world. But Kennedy's Addison's disease was getting worse. His back was degenerating. Some doctors believe he wouldn't have survived a second term. His genetic disease was killing him. The assassin just got there first. Robert Francis Kennedy was different. The 7th child. Born 1925. When Jack became president, Bobby became Attorney General, age 35, and he went to war against organized crime. He targeted Jimmy Hoffa, the Teamsters, mafia bosses, Men who'd helped Joe Kennedy during Prohibition. Bobby didn't care. Then Jack was killed. November 1963. Bobby was destroyed. Some believe he blamed himself, thought the mafia killed Jack as revenge. Bobby changed. He grew passionate about civil rights, ending Vietnam. In '68, he ran for president. The campaign was electric. Young people believed in him. June 4th, 1968. Bobby wins the California primary. Around midnight, he gives a victory speech. To exit, he walks through the hotel kitchen. 12:13 a.m. A gunman opens fire. Bobby Kennedy is shot in the brain. June 6th, 26 hours later, he dies. Age 42. 2 brothers, both assassinated, both in their 40s. The mathematical probability is nearly 0. The curse is undeniable. Edward Kennedy, Teddy, born 1932, the youngest. By age 36, he'd watched 3 siblings die. Joe Jr., Kick, Jack, Bobby, and Rosemary destroyed. July 18, 1969. Ted attends a party on Chappaquiddick Island. He leaves with Mary Jo Kopechny. His car goes off a bridge into water. Ted escapes. Mary Jo drowns. Ted doesn't call police for 10 hours. The scandal destroys his presidential hopes. But he keeps his Senate seat and serves 47 years. Brain cancer kills him in 2009. Age 77, the longest-lived Kennedy man. But he carried the weight of being the last brother standing. The tragedy continued in the next generation. JFK Jr., born November 1960, days after his father's election. The boy who saluted his father's coffin. America's prince. He grew up handsome, charismatic, founded George Magazine, married Carolyn Bessette. And like his father, he was reckless. July 16, 1999. JFK Jr. pilots his plane to Martha's Vineyard. Night flight. Poor visibility. He loses control. The plane crashes into the Atlantic. All 3 aboard die. He was 38. Another Kennedy. Another plane. The curse had claimed Joe Jr. in 44. Kick in 48. And now Jack's son. Plus more recent deaths. David Kennedy, overdose at 28. Michael Kennedy, skiing accident at 39. Saoirse Kennedy Hill, overdose at 22. Maeve Kennedy McKean, canoeing accident at 40. So what is the Kennedy curse? Patrick Kennedy fled County Wexford. Bridget Murphy fled Wexford. The Fitzgeralds fled Wexford. They all married within Boston's tiny Irish Catholic community. For 3 generations, limited genetic diversity. What geneticists call a founder effect. Concentrated genes. Both good and bad traits amplified. Addison's disease, JFK's condition, has genetic components. Autoimmune disorders show higher rates in isolated populations. Rosemary's disability may have had genetic factors. Back problems, addiction, mental health issues run through the family. But the deaths, the accidents? Joe Kennedy raised his children to be fearless, to take risks. Joe Jr. volunteered for a suicide mission. JFK hid terminal illness to be president. Bobby took on the mafia. Ted drove drunk. JFK Jr. flew at night without proper training. Certain gene variants correlate with risk-taking behavior. What if the Kennedy DNA gave them fearlessness that made them great leaders, but also reckless? The Kennedy DNA gave them intelligence, charisma, political brilliance, but it also gave them vulnerability, disease, pain, and possibly genetic predisposition toward risk that ended in planes, bullets, and tragedy. From a famine cottage in Dunganstown to the White House in 4 generations. Patrick Kennedy fled genocide. His great-grandson governed the most powerful nation on earth. But the cost? Joe Jr., 29. Kick, 28. Rosemary destroyed at 23. Jack, 46. Bobby, 42. JFK Jr., 38. Over a dozen Kennedy family members lost to the curse. The Kennedy DNA carried survival, brilliance, charisma, but also vulnerability, autoimmune disease, addiction, risk-taking. A gene pool so concentrated that genetic traits had nowhere to hide. The same bloodline that made them fearless made them reckless. The same limited gene pool that concentrated their genius also concentrated their vulnerabilities. The same Irish Catholic identity that united them also isolated them genetically. Today, Kennedys still serve in politics, still carry the name, still bear the weight of that DNA. Patrick Kennedy advocates for mental health. Joe Kennedy III served in Congress. Patrick Kennedy fled starvation carrying DNA shaped by centuries of oppression and famine. That DNA conquered America. But it never forgot where it came from, and it never stopped paying the price. The Kennedy dynasty is the ultimate American story. Immigrants who became royalty. Tragedy and triumph inseparable. Greatness and suffering written in the same genetic code. From famine to Camelot. From DNA to destiny. If this investigation moved you, subscribe to Famous Roots for more DNA audits on American dynasties. We're uncovering the genetic secrets behind the families that shaped history, one bloodline at a time. Thanks for watching. And remember, your bloodline writes your beginning, but your choices write your history.